Hello, and welcome to the CVA Gallery. My name is Elisa Alorza, and I'm sitting here today with Karen Bright. So we're going to talk today about how Karen came from a graphic design education at Cranbrook to teaching graphic design at Monmouth Arts to here with us today. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. It's wonderful.
Yeah, we're excited to have you with us, Karen. And I wanted to just start off by asking if you could tell us a little bit about your background, where you started as a creative person.
Well, if you want to go all the way back, I used to make little wooden animals with my little X-Acto knife when I was like 12 or 13.
I love that.
And that was my, the first thing I did besides drawing. So that's way, way back. But no, I fell in love initially with stone lithography. At my first school that I went to was Southern Connecticut State University.
Okay.
And the teacher there, Keith Hatcher, was a really well-known stone lithographer, and everyone was gravitating to the lithography studio there. So wow. I fell in love with that, and that was what I did for really all of my undergraduate education. Even after I transferred to University of the Arts in Philadelphia. And I ended up there meeting this wonderful professor who later became the dean of the school, and I can't remember his name at the moment because, age. But he was teaching letterpress.
Oh, okay.
And so this one course I had, I was like, oh my God, I love type. And I love handset. We were handset type and an old Vandercook machine, and we made handset type. Yeah. And I ended up falling in love with type then. And that's how I got into graphic design, because at that point then I was a printmaking major, and I was a junior, and I just decided I loved typography, and then in through the back door graphic design. So I went down to the graphic design floor at the time of this. We were in the Anderson building in Philadelphia, and I said, I had to take more graphic design courses, some typography courses, and then I had a great class with David Gibson and another one with Ken Hebert, and some really great professors there. And so I kind of did a minor unofficially.
Oh, great.
And then when I decided to go to graduate school at Cranbrook, I actually was admitted there as a printmaker.
Okay.
But I had applied to other schools as a graphic designer. I still couldn't decide, even at that point. And then I was thinking maybe book arts, and so I was always really interested in many, many things. It was really hard for me to choose, a major. I felt like, well, I want to try this and I want to try that, and I love everything I try. And so it was tough. So at Cranbrook, actually, my first semester there out of 4 semesters was in printmaking.
Oh my gosh.
And then when I got there, I'm like, I think I want to be a graphic design major.
Turns out.
So and it was Catherine McCoy and Mike McCoy running the design program.
Sure. Wow.
And they were great. And I said, I went up to them and asked them if I could change majors. And they were like, well, that's not really how it works as a graduate program. You can't just change your major, but you can reapply as a graduate student and see if you get in.
Never ends, right?
Yeah. I'm like, all right. And so I did, and they let me in.
Okay.
And that was it. And so I loved. Even then, I did all the graphic design requirements, but even my thesis at that point, in the end, it was drawing letters.
Right, and we have 2 of those drawings from your thesis in the show, right? Absolutely.
Yes. So even then, I was like, I loved graphic design. I loved all the technology of it. That was right at the very end of the well, I should say it was right at the beginning of the digital technology.
Right.
And that caught my attention then at that point.
Yeah.
And so I remember Kathy McCoy had a little tiny Mac Plus in her office at one point. She'd just gotten it to try it out. And I was like eyeing it, because I was the computer typesetter. I was a graduate assistant there. And I was already doing the computer element as a computer typesetting machine. And so I was already like halfway there. Yeah. And then I just decided, well, I'm going to teach myself the computer next. So that's when I started teaching myself all the software and all the digital, and you know, to me, it's all the same. It really doesn't change, you know.
Yeah.
We were talking before about graphic design and how graphic design integrates in with the painting and sculpture. And I'm working on a book now for a friend of mine in Oregon, and you know, the typography, and it's all a dance around the page. Yeah. It's all working the space.
Yeah.
And it doesn't change for me. It's the same as a painting. It's the same as the spatial relationships of a sculpture. It really.
Right.
I have a hard time making them into like different things. To me, it's all coming from me. It's all part of me.
Right. And it's all the same, right? It's point, line, plane. Red is red, whether you're working in graphic design or painting.
It's true.
There's so many similarities. I think we get so hung up sometimes on differentiating and siloing and demarcating different things.
Yeah.
And that can be helpful in some ways, for sure, and it's great to have experts in fields, and that certainly has its place. Mm-hmm. But I think that there's also a very important place for folks like you, and I think I'm cut from a similar cloth. I think a lot of our students probably are as well, who you're just curious, right? Part of your making, part of your creativity is your curiosity, and it's infinite, right? You're constantly curious.
It is. That curiosity will carry you through a lifetime of new work. Yeah. You know, it's never ending. You know, I want to learn how to, you know, cast something for bronze sculpting next. You know, and I'd love to learn egg tempera, for example. You know?
Right. What else is there?
I mean, you know, that's something. We live not too far from the Brandywine River Museum, and where Andrew Wyeth did all his beautiful egg tempera paintings. And that's a love I've had since I was 18. I remember the very first art book I ever bought was Andrew Wyeth's sketchbook.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I still have it. It's still my favorite book.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, I, you know, would love to try that, you know. So, you know, the important thing, you know, it's been a lifetime of a creative life, and it's not going to end, you know. It's who I am, you know, and it applies. Whatever is feeding this aesthetic or this creativity is part of my brain. You know, it's just part of who I am.
Yeah, it's a way of being in the world. I think really being an artist, being a designer, it's a way of being in the world.
Yeah.
More than anything else, I think. More than anything you produce, I think it's a way of being in the world.
It's a way of it's a way of living, and I'd rather be in my studio than anywhere in the world. Sure. I mean, I do like to travel, and I want to travel more, but being in the studio is like my version of heaven, you know. It's just the best, and it's just see what happens next.
Right, and I mean, I think that experimentation, that freedom to be able to see what happens next, you know, there's so much of that we see in the show that we have at Brookdale right now, right, within the Anthropocene. And I think there's, you know, in addition to having the graphic work, that was inspired by Sandy that you have, and the infographics that are so beautiful. You know, we have I think 8 encaustic paintings, and then we have 7 encaustic sculptures that have never been seen before. Right? They're really, you know, kind of came about thinking about, I think, in part this show and what was coming forward, and the idea of what the Anthropocene might be. You know, and the idea of making water still and giving water color and this form and volume. We've had such a strong response to these pieces in the gallery. So many people are excited by them. They're awed by their beauty, by how some of them almost defy physics. Can you talk? I mean, and they couldn't be less like graphic design, right? So how do you get from the infographics to these sculptures?
That's a really good question, and it's movement. I think I think it's space, it's light, and it's movement that holds everything together. Even when I write, you know, it's the thoughts have to come together. They have to transition. You know, there's the connections.
Yeah.
So the you know, the graphic design is just another form of making connections with material and space.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the sculpture. I love the sculptures. I feel like that's probably what I'll do for the rest of my life.
I hope so. They're out. I mean, they're outstanding. And I have to say, like every week, I have a new favorite, a new one that I think about. And we're excited. I think you met some of our fine art students. They're going to come in. They're going to start sketching the sculptures. They're so excited. Great. And it's so interesting. How does it feel as an artist when your work is inspiring other students, other artists to come in and almost kind of build off of what you've done? I mean, what is that like for you?
It's really quite rewarding. I mean, it really is. It's exciting. I love, when I had a show at Monmouth University a few years ago, which led to this show actually, students came in and wrote poetry to the work. There was a writing workshop, and they came in and wrote poetry, and I thought, and then they gave me a copy of the poems, and I thought, wow, that was really beautiful. So it's nice to know that there's something happening from the work, And I love the idea of students coming in and sketching. I can't even imagine what these sculptures would look like in a drawing.
Yeah, right. Then that movement, 2D to 3D, right? 3D to 2D, I guess. Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is movement. It's voices, especially in the paintings. But even in the sculptures, I hear voices, coming through in the paintings, and that's where the Anthropocene is interesting to me, because. Sure. I feel like we are coexisting, with the other creatures on this earth, all the living things, including trees. Not just everything has a life, and every life is important, every form of life. And so I think that's what where the Anthropocene is fascinating to me, because we either respect that or not, Right. And so I feel like for me the work has a purpose. I can't just paint for paint's sake.
Right, just to, just for the thing of it, right?
No, even when, my students all these years teaching, you have to do it for a reason. You have to find purpose for your work.
Right, and that's a purpose for your life too, right? It all comes together.
It does all come together.
One thing that I think is so beautiful, I mean, we tackled a really heavy subject matter with this show, right? The idea of the Anthropocene is a really heavy subject matter. It's very difficult to sit with that. I think your art acts as a window into that, that is more inviting than most into the topic. And I think so often, it's the world seems overwhelming, the news seems overwhelming, everything seems, dystopian almost. We don't look to the artists, the designers enough, because there's so much beauty, there's so much good that's happening every single day that's still bubbling up and still to come, and there's so much good. If we just maybe turned off the evening news and pulled out a paintbrush or a sketchbook, or came to a gallery, or talked with an artist, or found our own creative self. That positivity is still there. That good is still there. We just have to bring it up to the surface more.
And that's an interesting dynamic that happened even for me, moving from paintings to, and even the graphic design pieces, to the paintings, to the sculptures. The graphic design pieces were like, this is the facts, this happened, and then the paintings were like, kind of like yelling, hey, I'm not holding anything back. This climate change situation we find ourselves in is a problem, and screaming for attention kind of thing. And but then the sculptures. And that wasn't getting much traction, I noticed. There's traction, but there's not enough to make a difference. But then so then I thought, well, the sculpture said, let me take another approach where it's the beauty, that you see beauty and love the beauty of it, and that's what is the action. That's what's driving and driving the force and driving the motivation of it, the intent. It's the beauty of the water form and what it means, and the importance of water, and we have to have water, and but also there's all that history in water. Sure. If you look at the molecular level, and that's so fascinating to me when I start digging down into the water,
I love that. Well, right, the curiosity, right? It all comes back to the curiosity.
It does.
And I think, that's one of the things we've loved about having not just your work here, but also you with us, because you've brought that to our community at Brookdale in a whole other way, introducing our students to encaustics, introducing us to your work, and really that idea of art and design being, I guess maybe two sides of the same coin, or part of a creative practice.
It's I think we have to stop siloing everything.
I love that. I love that. So let's end with that, right? We'll stop siloing everything. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We just finished our student encaustic workshop and our encaustic demo, where Karen shared her paint technique that's inspired by printmaking, that's inspired by a very diverse background of training and interest, and we'll talk about that. But primarily working with encaustics, which is wax-based paint. And it's a method of painting that goes back to the Romans, goes back to the Greeks, actually, the word encaustic. It comes from burning in Greek.
My name is Scott Kuffner. My second year at Brookdale. This spring I'll be finished with my fine arts degree. And I've always been making art. I just decided to pursue it because I felt a strong pull towards just studio art, and the idea of being an artist is pleasing to me. It was a mental choice and a physical choice. Amy, this is my first semester with her as my professor. I've done well this semester and I take pride in my schoolwork. I think she selected me because she saw that I needed kind of a boost, and the work Karen does is invigorating. It exposes you to a person that is dedicated, and if you see glimpses of yourself in someone like that, then it's encouraging. I started working with modeling paste and different mediums like directly after the workshop because it was inspiring. So I think it helped me as an artist and a person, just be a better person from it. This piece was the first one I did in the workshop. I stuck with the same colors for the three pieces, and Karen actually told me that she liked it, so I just stopped working on it because obviously, she was doing the workshop. I'd take her opinion with great respect. Just about texture, I think it really becomes about, and I think you can see some naturalistic qualities in it, like there's the horizontal lines that may insinuate a landscape. And yeah, I stuck with the same colors. There's kind of like this burnt orange, yellow theme in all of them. This particular piece, she wanted us to actually take the canvas and place it over the pigment and the encaustic. So I did that after a few layers of encaustic, and that's why you get this kind of like marble effect. It allowed me to just think of painting not in like a linear context where it's like, okay, I draw this and then I do this and I do this and here's the final product. It's like there's just this never-ending relationship with layers that you can have with a piece. And I think working with Karen and listening to what she had to say allowed me to kind of embrace that. This piece, there's kind of a figure in it, to me at least, I can see it. This one I think is my favorite just because of like the little textures and stuff that I achieved, and all of them could be reworked, which is the cool part. You can just go back in with encaustic as we learned and put more pigment on, and then turn it to something completely different. I think that's the cool part about her process that I learned too. I'm hell-bent on being a prolific artist, and I'm always in my studio at home. And so this workshop, as an artist, it just allowed me to step outside of my comfort zone, and then to just have that one-on-one interaction with Karen throughout the workshop. It provides hope for a young artist, I think, to be selected for an opportunity like this. It gave me like a shock of life, I think. I think that's what I want to say about it, yeah.
My name is Maria Valenti. I'm a fine arts major, and I'm creeping into finishing my second year. Cool to watch how everybody kind of started it off. It was interesting to watch like the different applications. I loved it. And I liked the stuff that I made too. So the palette that I used was Lizard Crimson and an Indian Yellow. And I used a scoring tool to kind of create this like scratchy effect. This is probably my favorite one that I did. This is the first one that I did. I was really happy with this. I think it's very moody. This was probably the one that I did where I was like, I really like this application. I really like this technique. It was nice to explore the abstract side. This is a little bit more like melancholy and kind of mellow. The wax was laid down very heavily, so it would show this like texture on it, especially right here, and you can see it a little bit more here too. But it has definitely shaped my experience. I don't really like to stay in one type of medium. Like I worked pottery for 3 years. I've only been painting for a year, but I really liked it. I've done jewelry. Like I tried a bunch of different types of techniques with art, so it has just broadened it even more.
My name is Sarah Triolo. I just started Brookdale. This is my second year here as an interior design major, and I really have enjoyed it here so far. Celeste actually talked to me about nominating me for this project, and I was really excited. I was a little scared going into an art class and being an interior design major, and this was just a new experience, especially with this type of medium I've never worked with, so it was really interesting. I really enjoyed being with all different types of students, just to talk to other people that are in the same major but slightly different, so it's always interesting to see their work and how I can incorporate it into my work. This was actually my first piece. I really tried to etch into this and use a lot of the different tools all at once in the beginning to kind of get a feel for what I wanted to do. This was actually my second piece that I created, and it really helped with my concept for my interior design project. So this was actually my last piece, and I was at this point just experimenting, so it was a lot of fun, and it really challenged me to think outside of the box. I usually don't go this route with a lot of abstract art, and it really challenged me, and now I feel like I can use it in the rest of my pieces in my concepts, and just thinking more outside the box, not so literal in my interior design.
Hi, my name is Ryasuke Oda. Second year student architecture here in Brookdale. I always wanted to be an architect since I was little. Brookdale was one of the schools I was looking at because of the architecture program. I heard from other classmates from high school that it is one of the best programs in the state. When I got here, I fell in love with it. It was during a presentation that my professor told me, "Oh, you've been nominated to go to this workshop." It was actually a great experience, especially seeing the art students' creativity. It's like, this is something that I want to see more, especially I can get influence in architecture and stuff I work with. This piece in particular is part of my favorite piece. This is my second work. This is a sublime architecture field. It's actually the same week that we learned in my Renaissance class about sublime and destructive or chaotic nature. I feel like this is something new to me, and that I feel like I get more creative in a physical way, that I could show my emotion in the way I want it to, instead of like putting it in a program in a computer. It was an honor being in this workshop. Stuff that Karen showed us, her work is, I feel like it's more than art. It's more like emotional based and like feeling. I feel like that goes with architecture, especially concept wise. It's not literal. It's more as well, if you're going inside a building, you could feel the emotion, you could see what's going on. It's also like the art she was doing. I feel like I could learn more from her and put it on my work at my major.